So we're now prepared to define our table of Laplace transforms. We could theoretically go through every single function that we might encounter and find their Laplace transforms, but at some point it probably just makes sense to state them and not have to go through the derivation of each one, but the process would be the same as in the previous video. So here is a table. This one has been made available to you as well. So what we need to do here, let's see, hold on one second. And this table shows some of, well, actually a whole list of functions, many of which you probably won't encounter very often. So I've gone through and I've highlighted the ones that we commonly use. The first one we derived, but we derived for the Laplace of a constant in general, and it doesn't matter whether this is 1 or 2 or 10 or whatever. If this is c, then this over here will just be c as well. So it'll be c, Laplace of c is c over s. Whoops. So that's going to be a real handy one to have. So this is going to be c over s if it's a constant. Laplace of e to the at is 1 over s minus a. We also derived that one. We'll encounter sine and cosine a little bit later on, and as you know with spring mass systems, we have exponentially decaying sine and cosine functions. So those will become handy as well. We might need those at some point. Also down here, these are ones that we didn't derive, but these are the Laplace of the first and second derivatives. So one way we could write number 35 to make it look a little more convenient is if we take the Laplace of dy dt. That's usually how we write it, or you could say the Laplace of y prime. That's going to equal s times, now f of s, that's just another symbol to represent the Laplace of y, minus f of 0 is actually the initial condition y of 0. So that's what number 35 would look like. If you want to take the Laplace of a first derivative, it's going to be s times the Laplace of y minus y of 0, which is your initial condition. 36, this guy here, you could write this as s squared times the Laplace of y minus s times y of 0, that's the initial condition, minus y prime of 0, that's our first derivative. And you know that we have two initial conditions with second order differential equations. One has been for position and one has been for velocity. That being said, there are a couple of other important ones that aren't mentioned in this table. One property that's extremely useful is if you take the Laplace of, say, a whole set of terms, in this case two functions, f of t plus g of t, then you could take the Laplace of each one separately. The reason this works is because the Laplace transform is an integral. So when you integrate a sum of two functions, you can integrate each one separately and then add them back together. That's all that's saying. The second property is if you have the Laplace of a constant times a function, you can factor the constant out. Same thing as the property of integrals. If you have the integral of 3t, for example, then that's the same thing as 3 times the integral of t dt. So you can factor that constant out. That's all this property is saying. Now, one place to be careful that we always want to attempt to generalize is if we have the Laplace of a product of two functions. You cannot simply take the Laplace of f, take the Laplace of g, and multiply them together. There is, same thing with integrals, you can't just integrate each factor separately. You have to use something like integration by parts. Finally, when you see, like in 35 and 36, you see the Laplace of y. The Laplace of y cannot be broken down any further because y itself is a function of t. So this y is a function of t. It contains t's in it, but we don't know what it is yet. If we did know what it was, we wouldn't be going through any of this. So you'll see in a moment that we just leave Laplace of y as the Laplace of y, and for a good reason. So let's look at a couple of examples before we go through the process of solving equations. The reason we need to look at this is because we're going to need to do what are called inverse Laplace transforms. So it's kind of like the difference between derivatives and integrals. I have to ask myself, if this is the function that I ended up with, what was the function that I had to take the Laplace of in order to end up with 1 over s minus 1? Well, let's take a look at anything in the rightmost columns here that looks similar to 1 over s minus something. So let's just look at the common ones. Well, that doesn't look like it. That doesn't look like it. But I think, hey, we've already encountered one. The Laplace of e to the at results in a f of s function of 1 over s minus a. So if I look at my equation, I need to identify what a is. Here, this a and this a are the same, except notice the signs will be switched. So if I have 1 over s minus 1, that means my a value is 1. And that means that this is going to be the, let me undo that. Just wrote another question mark. This is going to be the Laplace of e to the 1t will give me 1 over s minus 1. So often the way we write it is because we're trying to figure out what function did I start off with to end up with 1 over s minus 1? Well, that function was e to the 1t. So we can say the inverse Laplace of 1 over s minus 1 is e to the 1t. Same kind of thing goes here. I want to find out what was the function that I had to take the Laplace of to end up with negative 10 over s. Well, that looks a lot like the Laplace of a constant, where the Laplace of a constant is c over s. So if we have c over s, whatever that numerator is, that's going to be the function I started off with. Therefore, the inverse of negative 10 over s is going to be negative 10. For part C, this looks a little trickier. Notice that it does have that constant over s plus or minus something. There's no other function that has just a constant in the denominator plus or minus something without the s being squared. So like here, you can't really look at 7 or 8 because those contain squares of s in the denominator. That's not the same thing as just having s in the denominator. There are no other formulas that really lead to that, so I may have to do a little bit of surgery on this. Now I know that I can factor constants in and out, so what I want to attempt is the inverse Laplace of 3 over 2s plus 4. Then I know I can take out a factor from the denominator of 2, and I can take out a factor of 3 from the numerator. So let me do that. So this is going to be 3 over 2 times, now my other fraction, if I factored out a 3 from the numerator, I'll have a 1 in the numerator left. If I factored out a 2 from here, that leaves me with 1s plus 2. So you can see if we multiply these two fractions back together, we get 3 over 2s plus 4. And now, because you can think about an inverse Laplace as taking a derivative, since taking a Laplace is taking an integral, so I can actually factor out that 3 halves. Same properties work for inverses as for regulars. And now I need to just focus on what's the inverse of 1 over s plus 2. Well, I know that e to the at will have a Laplace transform of 1 over s minus a. Now if I have a plus 2 here, I just have to make sure that whatever I write in the exponent of e, it's the opposite sign of the a here. So if this is positive 2, then this has to be negative 2. And to make that more explicit, we can actually take one more little algebraic step and say this is 3 halves times the inverse Laplace of 1 over s minus negative 2. And so in this way I can see more clearly that my a value is negative 2. So this is going to come out to 3 halves times the inverse of this is going to be e to the negative 2t. And so that's my final answer. The inverse Laplace of 3 over 2s plus 4 is 3 halves times e to the negative 2t. So a lot of times we have to get creative to try to make it look like one of the formulas in our formula sheet. Now let's go ahead and solve a differential equation. In order to do this, what we need to account for first is what the process is going to look like. So the four-step process is, for a differential equation, we're going to take the Laplace transform of both sides and simplify. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to isolate y, Laplace of y. Then we'll clean up and prepare to take some inverses, and you'll see what I mean by that in our next example. And then we're going to take the inverse Laplace transform of both sides. So let's see what this is going to look like when we go this route. So the first thing we're going to do to this equation, example 4, now we already know how to solve this. The solution to dy dt equals 3y is going to be y equals k e to the 3t. And then with our initial condition, we'll have 10 e to the 3t as our final solution. And so to see that this process will produce the same thing, let's go ahead and do our first step. So we want to take dy dt equals 3y, and we're going to take the Laplace of both sides. Now really, we're just integrating both sides with respect to the same thing. So there's nothing wrong with this. All right, Laplace of dy dt. So that was our number 35 in this formula sheet. So 35, the Laplace of dy dt is going to translate into s times the Laplace of y minus y of 0. So that left side is going to be s times the Laplace of y minus y of 0. And on the left, I can't do anything with the Laplace of y because y is an unknown function of t, but what I can do, and what I want to do, is to factor out that constant. All right, that's as far as that can go in terms of taking the Laplace transform of both sides, but I can still simplify. I know that y of 0, that's my initial condition, and that's equal to 10. This is part of the beauty of this process. You don't have to later on go and solve for your arbitrary constants. You can plug those in whenever you see the y of 0 emerge. So that's one of the nice parts. All right, the second step is to isolate Laplace of y. So I have a Laplace of y here. I have a Laplace of y here. I want to move those to the same side together. So I'm going to have s times the Laplace of y on the left. Now I'm going to subtract over 3 times the Laplace of y. And now I have a minus 10 on the left, so I'm going to add that to the right to make it equal to 10. Now I'm not done isolating Laplace of y. I see that I have two terms here. I want to combine them. So if I factor out the Laplace of y, now think about Laplace of y just as you would a symbol, like x. You're solving for x here. You're not going to do anything with the L. You're not going to do anything with the y. You'll see in a moment when we inverse a Laplace, the Laplace and the inverse Laplace cancel each other out. So I'm going to now divide by s minus 3 on both sides. I'll have Laplace of y equals 10 over s minus 3. So this was step 1. Step 1 was just to take the Laplace of both sides. Step 2 was then to isolate Laplace of y. Step 3 is to do any cleanup necessary. Now, what I mean by cleanup is you want to now look at what's on the right-hand side and ask yourself, do I recognize that as the inverse of some function? And already I see that this looks like 1 over s minus 3. So I'm going to take the inverse Laplace both sides of both sides now. Oops. So 3, nothing much to do here. 4, take the inverse Laplace of both sides. Okay? And take the inverse Laplace of 10 over s minus 3. Now the inverse Laplace of a Laplace is like saying take the integral of y and then take its derivative. So these two cancel each other out, and this is exactly why we take this series of steps. So we get y equals, now I'm going to factor out a 10 times the inverse Laplace of 1 over s minus 3. The inverse of 1 over s minus 3 is e to the 3t. And lo and behold, we have solved our first differential equation, which agrees with what we know about the solution to that. So in the next video, we'll actually just do some more examples with this, and we'll see how the algebraic trickery